What is the best movie ever done? Welcome back, you guys. Today, I wanted to talk about something, and the question that I just posed is more specifically what I'm going to be talking about today. What is the best movie? In almost all genres throughout generations, there have been moments that will live on in film. Um, like Indiana Jones' famous line, "Why'd it have to be snakes?" Or Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father." Both of those are staple moments. Or the moment where, you went to your first romantic film with a loved one. Or maybe you saw your first superhero film in theaters. Or your first horror film, your first rated R movie. What was it? That moment where you finally found your true love of movies. For me personally, one of the moments that I will always remember is when I personally went and saw The Avengers back in 2011 for the first time, and I truly fell in love with cinema. It was a moment for me that for years I had rented videos online, or through a physical DVD rental place that I'd actually go to catch up on Iron Man and Thor and Hulk and Captain America. And so at that point, it was just, for me, a moment where I felt like, this is where everything kind of happens. And so this is why I wanted to talk about, what is truly the most important thing. When it comes to the art of cinema, there are moments that define the art form for decades to come. So I decided to make a list of films that I felt were undeniably the best in almost all genres, with Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey coming out this weekend, and summer vacation is almost over. I decided to make a list of films that if you only had 10, I think these are the 10 that, maybe you've seen all these and maybe you haven't, and maybe you disagree with me. But this has been one of the strongest years in box office records and in film alone. I mean, we have three independent YouTuber creators, so many good films coming out this year, and still so many to come. Let's talk about the movies that are generational, not including this year yet. That video will come at the end of the year, where I talk about my top 10 for this year. But let's just talk about the top 10 that I believe will transcend generations for all time. And maybe this list will change in time. But this is according to IMDb, which is the source that I used for this information. These are the top 10 in almost all genres. So, keeping that in mind, let's go ahead and talk about the top 10. Transition time. Transition. Okay, so the number one film of all time that I believe everybody should see, and that is the number one film on Shaw is on the 250 movies that everybody should see, the top 200, drama movies of all time, is The Shawshank Redemption, sitting at 9.3 out of 10. It is the closest to a perfect 10 you can get. It is, I believe, the best drama film of all time. This film did not do well at the time it was released in box offices. It had a lot of competition and ultimately ended up being a redemption story through television reruns, and over time it just gained a cult following and became one of the best films and most quotable films of all time. One of the best lines from that film is, "You either get busy living or you get busy dying." Uh, I've talked about the Shawshank Redemption before many times, and I believe on this channel it's one of the more popular films that I ever talk about. So that's the number one for me. I feel like throughout time the story it really stands a test of time. The acting by Mr. Morgan Freeman and the others along with him are, just amazing casting, and over time. I feel like the escape movie that set up what will become jail escape movies and crime films beyond that, and also just thrillers as a whole. And then number two is considered the best romance comedy or romantic drama of all time, and that is Say Anything with John Cusack. Um, it sits at a 9.2 out of 10 and a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Again, considered one of the best romance films of all time. The famous scene from that is John Cusack standing on the lawn with the boombox in his hand playing In Your Eyes. It's just one of those moments that got quoted and re-seen throughout parody films and other films alike for generations to come. For me, it's one of the first romance films I ever watched as a young man. You definitely feel more of a relation to Lloyd Dobler and just his story with the heroine in this movie, the female love interest. It's definitely the most balanced version, I believe. There's intrigue, there's romance, there's will they, won't they. There's just an understated acting performance from both Lloyd and his counterpart in this film. But I believe that it's just one of those movies that will stand the test of time as a romance film. It may not be considered the best, but in my opinion, I believe it's the most well written and well executed romance film of all time. Coming in at number three is The Dark Knight. Speaking of Christopher Nolan, his film comes in at a 9.1 out of 10. This one did amazing in the box office at the time. It was right up there with Harry Potter and the other ones that were coming out at the time. It is considered one of the best superhero films of all time. Obviously, it won an Oscar for um, the lovely actor that passed on, Heath Ledger, in this movie. Just did an amazing job with the Joker. It's considered one of the best villain roles of all time for any character. One of the best Batman movies of all time, and probably top two, if not number one, best Christopher Nolan film. Um, for me, it's number two. My favorite Christopher Nolan film of all time is probably Interstellar, although it is in my top three favorite movies. So that's something to be said for it. Accomplishments wise, again, the cinematography, the fact that it was filmed for IMAX, and it was definitely one of those movies that you bought, like Interstellar, to really watch on 4K Ultra HD when it came out during that time. And Nolan really got to have a nice place in the home of all Americans with The Dark Knight. So, also one of the best superhero trilogies of all time, in my opinion. Number four is Pulp Fiction by Quentin Tarantino. This is Quentin Tarantino's second film, right after Reservoir Dogs. It's an 8.8 out of 10. It has John Travolta, Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, Uma Thurman, and that's just to name a couple. Pulp Fiction is, I believe, one of the best, mafia films of all time. It's one of those Odyssey films that's told sort of out of story, or out of order. I'm sorry, I said out of story. I meant out of order. And it's one of those movies that began to question, like, what really is in the suitcase? What is the meaning of all this, right? And I forgot to say the quotable moment from The Dark Knight. So The Dark Knight, of course, had Why So Serious, and Pulp Fiction has the Jackrabbit Slims dance scene that's popped up a lot. There's a lot of like moments that have survived through memes and stuff, but the moment that's the best for, I think, all time in cinema is the scene where Samuel L. Jackson and him are sitting there and he's like, "It's good bacon. I like ham. I like the eggs." They're sitting there in the diner and they're just talking about the food. It's not the most like you know, groundbreaking writing, but it definitely is iconic. So that's why it's number 4 for me. Number 5 is the horror film on the list, Silence of the Lambs, sitting at an 8.6 out of 10. Obviously, this won Anthony Hopkins a Oscar um, along with his other counterparts in this film. This is one of the best uh, horror films of all time. Although, if you look it up uh, on IMDb, it's not even on the list of horror films because I think it's considered more of a crime thriller. But on Google, they have it as a horror crime film. So I still consider it a horror film. Obviously, Hannibal Lecter's most quotable line, even in as recent of a film as Zootopia 2, is "Hello, Agent Starling," or "Hello, Clarice." And then also, there's other quotable lines from that one, but this one definitely won out at the Oscars that year when it faced off against Cape Fear. I have a video about that actually, but that one for me is one of my favorite horror films of all time. It's also just a really solid story, and it definitely challenged a very dense topic throughout time that would stand the test of time. I think this is one of those films that you can watch over and over and over again, and you'll never get bored of the performances, the camera work, the character realization. Um, I mean, even uh, you know, Jodie in this movie, that she had an amazing time with this. So number 6 is the sci-fi film of the bunch, with Back to the Future, sitting at an 8.5 out of 10. This one, I feel like, defined a whole genre of time traveling films to come after it. Definitely set up a lot of ideas for time traveling type action, sci fi, and otherwise type films that would adapt the idea of time travel and fixing your problems. Even with the most popular franchise, which is Avengers, when they did it in Endgame. Back to the Future had one of the best casts of all time. Obviously, Marty McFly became a very memeable type person. The you can even see it over there. I have it. The DeLorean. It's right over there on my shelf. The DeLorean. It's one of the most iconic cars and movie memorabilia of all time. And so that for me is probably the best sci-fi film. I debated on this one what to put in there. The number one best of all time, in their opinion, is, I think, 2001: A Space Odyssey. It might be, or Inception, something like that. But for me, it's definitely Back to the Future. Number 7 is Braveheart. This one for me isn't, it sits at an 8.3 out of 10. Obviously, there's a lot of iconic moments, freedom, one of the most iconic lines in all of cinema history. Braveheart with Mel Gibson is one of those movies that you can revisit a lot, and it still gets you every time. Makes you a grown man cry a lot. The war scenes filmed with real actors and a lot of extras. Just a huge accomplishment on a whole. Is solid storytelling, and I do believe this one was also seen at the Oscars. And then at number 8, kind of just getting through the list a little bit more quickly now, is There Will Be Blood. I've already talked about this one extensively in another video. You can go find that on my channel. I talk about There Will Be Blood versus No Country for Old Men. So if you want to hear me talk about that one more extensively, go watch that video. But it is an 8.2 out of 10. Daniel Day-Lewis obviously brings this home with Paul Dano. There Will Be Blood is just one of those tycoon type films that come out every now and again, that's like intrigue and psychosis and power. It's just, one of the best executed films from Paul Thomas Anderson of all time. At number 9, we have How to Train Your Dragon. This was my animated pick. A lot of people actually would discuss me on this, and if you have a different pick, put your top 10 down there in the comments and let me know what your pick would be. Mine is How to Train Your Dragon because I feel like it touches all different generations, from all the way from, really young kids to parents to teenagers to just, I mean, the soundtrack alone. Test Drive is probably the biggest thing from How to Train Your Dragon, along with the fact that it translated well to live action. How to Train Your Dragon just has to be one of the best animated films of all time, along with its voice casting. Um, I mean, Gerard Butler as the chief and the dad, just amazing, amazing work. And finally, but not the least of which, at number 10, the best heist film of all time that just, I mean, became generational for what it would do for heist films is Ocean's 11. This one comes in at a 7.7 out of 10. On IMDb, it's considered the best heist film of all time. It's definitely one of my favorite. I mean, you had just a whole huge rat pack of characters in this one, with Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Matt Damon, Don Cheadle, Casey Affleck. Just amazing casting. Julia Roberts was in this one, along with so many other people, characters, actors and actresses that would go on to become just massive names. Definitely a accomplishment in heist films as a whole. This movie would be overanalyzed and imitated to the point where it became kind of the niche of, like, this is just another Ocean's 11, just with a different theme. And I mean, I'd point out, the Italian Job, Now You See Me, Now You Don't. Just so many films stole from Ocean's 11. But that's going to be it. So this is what I feel like is the top 10 of all time. Christopher Nolan's Odyssey is coming out. He's one of the best directors of all time. All these films are films that I feel like were huge when they came out and highly debated. The same thing happens with every Nolan film that comes out, whether we're talking about Oppenheimer or The Dark Knight or Interstellar. Every film on this list has been debated and talked about in different lists on different videos. This is just my own version of this. This is my top 10 of all time. I feel like, there can be other versions. Let me know what your version would be in the comments below. If you guys disagree with me, if you think there's a different list that's more perfect, then obviously, I didn't include like The Godfather, which is definitely the highest rated movie of all time, alongside The Shawshank Redemption. I think it's number 2 on that list, but there's definitely different versions of this list that exist out there. I just feel like this is the best way to do all genres, different flavors. You even got, a Tarantino film in there for those of you who are completionist. And so, but that's going to be it for this video. I just wanted to talk about some of the best films, in my opinion. This is not my top 10, but I do agree with this list on a lot of different levels. So I can see a lot of you making this your top 10. They're definitely all really good movies. So if you haven't seen one and or all those, go and find them. I'm sure they're on some streaming service, and if not, go out and find a copy, borrow a copy from a friend, But other than that, even if, this video never makes it to cut and, the world blows up and there's no more film, at least we have this hope. I had to find it. That I almost cut it off way too early. I will see you, all of you, all my fans at the movies. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. All right. Cut to end. Peace.